Hello, family, and welcome to the channel. To be locked up in an African country is the last thing you want when you're visiting Africa, man. I'm telling you that. We need to watch this keenly, man, and let's have a discussion along the way. Big lessons to be learned here. This is LB, and stay on the channel.
Share with us exactly what transpired to get you arrested, and yeah, let people know. Share with us right here.
So long story short, we have a car here in South Africa, and you have frequent stops where the police will pull you over. They have roadblocks, and they will stop you. Just making sure that the car is registered, making sure that you have your driver's license, your ID, all the correct documents, because they have a lot of undocumented foreigners in the country. So they have frequent stops in different areas where they'll stop people. And for me, yes, what happened was I got a visa when I first came here, and then I applied for a work visa. The problem is that sometimes you can apply for things, and it can take extremely long for you to get the response or hear back from the Home Affairs and different things like that. So at that point in time, my visa had ran up, and I was waiting on my work visa to get approved. And in that time, it hadn't gotten approved, so my visa was expired. And when you drive here in South Africa, you must keep a passport on you because our license is valid, but they also need a passport to validate your license. So I gave the officer my passport, and my visa had expired. And unfortunately, I didn't have any cash on me. That's the one thing I will tell you, that not like in America, you can sometimes give the cops a little cash to keep them from arresting you.
Now, that's a sad reality, but it's a truth. Obviously, if he had cash on him, he would have found his way out of that mess. It's a common thing across many African countries that police would stop you at a random traffic check and, of course, need your ID, your passport, or your visa. So if it's invalid, obviously, you're going to be in trouble. A lot of people get away by, paying something to these cops. These guys can delay you. Immigration can really delay you to the point that your visa runs out. So the best solution for that, in Kenya, for example, where I come from, travel out of the country, go to the nearest African country that is not that expensive for you, and travel back in. That certainly is the case in Kenya. So when you travel out and you come back in, you are able then to get a new visa on arrival, which gives you another 3 months. So you can go for another 3 months as you try to figure out whether it's another work permit or an extension. But if you're extending and you're running out of time, man, best be sure that these guys are going to clamp on you, man. It's not a joke. So obviously, this was a slip up on this brother's side, but he's owned up, and I think we've got to appreciate what he's done and share the message so that those who are out there can learn a thing or two about navigating Africa, documentation, visas, and work permits. Let's continue listening.
And I didn't have any cash on me that day. And he says, "You're from America. You're supposed to have cash." I think he thought I was lying to him. I said, "I'm not lying, brother." And he just seemed to get more frustrated when I didn't have any cash or any money. He says, "We must take you in because you're driving with an expired visa." So then I was a lot taken into the back of the bucky for having an expired visa. And yeah, I got to experience the South African jail system.
So you make mention that the cash rules everything around me, right? And so the I know I'm laughing because I have had to pay police officers in several African countries, and sometimes we would look at it and say, God doggone, these daggone corrupt police officers taking money from you, this and that. But I, for real, me personally, when I see that, in a sense, I don't have to worry about going to the police station, them writing up a citation, got to come back to their court system at a specified time that you don't even know. That means that you got to get an attorney to represent you. It's even more complicated. And cash seems like it's just an easier way to just go and pay.
Yeah, cash seems to be the easier way to do it. Sadly, the court systems in Africa
Mm-mm.
have such a delayed process that for a simple thing, it might take you months to years really to fix, to sort out. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You find yourself having to fix this problem by then giving a little cash to the officer.
Mm-mm.
Wow. But now hold up now. So they took you to the station. I mean, were you not unable to call your wife to, bring something, or what was it? I mean,
I was able to make a call. Luckily, the guards were nice to me. They allowed me to use my phone. I was able to call her, and let her know. They were all very nice to me. Honestly, they were all the guards, the police. They were very nice to me. Um, so they allowed me to call her, and I was able to share my what was going on. And yeah, she was able to help me out over time and get me out of there. And the real crime is, Mr. Go Black, is what I was really hurt about was when I got behind bars was the inmates were charging people for beds.
what? We gonna get in that real quick. I got a question before we go enter into the jail. So you, your wife, they didn't want your wife was she couldn't bring you money, or they was at that point they were not accepting money. You're
Oh
at the
no, no,
point of no
that
return.
yeah, she was at work. She was at
Yeah,
work, so there was no way she was gonna be able to bring the money by that point.
yeah,
So and I had the car, and so it was gonna be difficult. So they had already booked me because I was telling the guy I will go and get you money. I'll go and take out some money, but they get people saying that and in his eyes, there's no guarantee that I'm gonna come back. And
yeah.
also, like you're American, you're supposed to keep cash on you. How you don't have any cash? So the expectation is even higher for us when we're American.
Well, if you're American, obviously you've got the Benjamins, as they say. But a large part of Africa also suffers what I call skin the color of money. That if you sound foreign, but especially if you look foreign, you would always be considered as having loads of money.
So, which is true. What is true. I mean, everybody thinks we got all this cash walking around on us. Um, so they process you, and what did they tell you? It was like, okay, I mean, do they don't have bond? Do they have where your wife can come later, okay, and get you out? How did that work?
I had to see a judge the next day, and when I went to see the judge, it was known that my visa had expired, and they offered me to plead guilty or not guilty. So at that time, I felt like I should just plead guilty because my visa, there's no denying my visa being expired, and
Yeah.
I pled guilty, and they sentenced me to it was I forget 3 months in jail, but you don't have to do the whole 3 months because they count when you do one day, they count it as 2 days. So that's why I just did a month and a half for my visa being expired, and I think they just kind of wanted to make an example out of me, and
Wow.
yeah, that's what happened.
So family, do y'all hear that? 3 month jail term for an expired visa. Typically, they would just kick you out. Okay, we're taking you to the airport, and you just get out of our country.
Well, he got the punishment because he didn't have the money. If he had the money on him, he would not have gotten that punishment. Those are the realities that you will face when you have expired documents. So I think the mission has got to be that anytime you're traveling out here, you have your paperwork in place. You've got your visas in place. You've got any other work permits in place. I know for sure that in South Africa, opposition leader Julius Malema is pushing really hard for the government to introduce a policy where people of African descent can then travel to South Africa without a visa.
The first thing we need to do, which the AU must firmly resolve, is to do away with the visa.
But I think the conversation needs to go further, as is also suggested, that the wider continent of Africa introduce a visa-free policy for Africans of diaspora to be able to travel the continent, Africans born on the continent to be able to move freely. But of course, the governments within Africa have got to put systems in place to allow for travel that also brings in those who genuinely want to come in for tourism, who wish to invest, who wish to stay. Hey, maybe you even found love on the continent. That those who've done that, and it's not illegal. When you find love, you find a new home, or you take your spouse back with you. But the bigger picture has got to be that Africa is thinking investment, Africa is thinking diaspora, Africa is thinking returnees home, Africa is enabling pilgrimage for our African diaspora to be able to do that on the continent without too much trouble. This is pathetic, if you ask me. It's sad that your ancestors left here on a boat. You are coming back at better times, or so you think. Then you have to be thrown in jail. And the quick answers online here will be that, he broke the law, he broke the law. Yes, he broke the law, so to speak. But whose law is it? Who put these laws into place? We were disorganized. We were systems that worked. We were one motherland called Africa. And somebody came here and balkanized the continent. Then we still have to enforce policies that keep the shackles on us, keep our brothers and sisters away, while we should be encouraging travel to Africa, investment, in Africa, and cultural exchange, because black families out there have got their own new culture that they adopted, wherever they are. We've got our own culture. We've got the Afrobeat. We've got all these kinds of music. So you can imagine the fusion of what African diaspora has developed, that fusion with what we have today on the African continent. Man, it's power waiting to happen. But are our leaders recognizing that? No, they're not. Instead, somebody chooses to punish you for traveling back home. So why would you punish your child for traveling back home? In the name of rules. Whose rules? Honestly, whose rules? So, Jermaine, shout out to you, my brother. Hard times on your side, but you've acknowledged what you went through, and we can't really beat you up about it.
But they said, no, the punishment is, God, dog. You go, hey, man, be honest. Did you cry like a baby, or did you take it like a man?
No, I didn't cry because I knew I was getting out. I knew I didn't commit a serious crime like some of the brothers that I met in there who had commit serious offenses and are never going to get out again. So I'm older now, where I was just thankful. But hey, the experience was traumatizing. I can be honest. It makes our prison system look like a 5-star hotel compared to their prisons. I'm saying as far as the bedding and the food and the prisons are overpopulated here. That's something I do want to speak about. They're overpopulated here, and the only issue I have.
Hold on a second. Okay, we gonna get there. We gonna get there. So, you're there. You go see the judge the next day. You get sentenced to 3 months, but you get time, 1 day time for every day spent. So it's subtracted or whatever. Good time is a day taken off. So a month and a half. So now, okay, you say you didn't cry like a baby. you took it on the chin, and you took responsibility. Let me say this right here, because somebody said, well, what did they say? They was making it, I guess, a reference of, you got to take responsibility, and you took the responsibility, right? That your visa was expired and all that right there. I mean, I think me and you had a talk about the visa part, I think, before, but so yeah, he's not making any excuses. He's definitely owning up that he should have got the visa. But let me say this right here to people out there too, because laws are different. Sometimes we may have more liberties in certain countries than others. In America, sometimes they just, like, okay, here's a little fine, go get your paperwork. And it's different in some of these countries. And you found out in South Africa, it's jail time.
So people, that's a sad reality. But Jermaine, my brother, shout out to you. It's disheartening to see this happening to anybody who's visiting. But we wish you well as you go across the rest of Africa. Certainly travel to Kenya, man. Give me a shout. Would be great to show you around if you do make the decision to travel to Nairobi and go back to Africa. I see what you're doing on the continent, man. Keep up the good work. Great stories you're bringing out to light, and obviously I hope that the audience that is out there can appreciate some of the work that is going into this. I'm excited to continue researching and digging out stories that will bring great value to you as an audience, and especially Africans of diaspora. When you're traveling Africa, you need the information to navigate the continent. Information is power. So if you have enjoyed this far, then certainly hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, share, like. We will be bringing you a lot more you do not want to miss. This is Africa, our business. Let's make it work. Nobody's gonna do it for us. I thank you for your time, and we'll see you again in the next one. Peace.